Let's look at America's real roots. The Declaration of Independence is signed in Pennsylvania. William Penn received Pennsylvania from King Charles because he owed money to William Penn's father. William Penn's father was a pirate, stealing wealth from other thieves. He stole Jamaica from Spanish thieves and it became a pirate haven. These robberies established Pennsylvania and Jersey, not peaceful Quakers. William Penn was half Dutch himself, and the Dutch are Germanic people, and many of the settlers of the area are part Dutch. Let's look at this book. One of the primary controllers of land under William Penn are the Budd family. They are supposedly Quakers. Quakerism was an easy cover for those with Moorish or Jewish roots. Many of the American colonists are the Sephardim, who were expelled from Spain and Portugal and ran to the Netherlands and the UK. And many of the French Huguenots are these Hamitic practitioners of Judaism. Many groups were the Amish, the Mennonites, Quakers, etc. All Germanic peoples were considered Dutch in early America. Benjamin Franklin considered Germanic peoples swarthy. Swarthy comes from the word Schwarz, which means black. Hence the Black Dutch. Look at the progression. Many Sephardics ran into the Netherlands from Spain. Spain was called Iberia because of the Eber or Hebrews that lived there. The Netherlands were controlled by Spain, and these Sephardics funded a revolution against Spain. This made Amsterdam the premier financial center of Europe. They lobbied Cromwell, who had just pushed out the swarthy King Charles bloodline, so they could expand into the UK. This leads to the installment of a Dutch ruler over the UK, William of Orange. They then found the Bank of England and dominate world trade and finance. But this was all done to unseat France because it was the intellectual and cultural center of Europe. France was the standard of excellence, and France controlled the Catholic world. Until World War I, also known as the 7 Years' War, this made the UK the imperial power of the world. That's why France funded the slave revolt known as the American Revolution. Look. But the newly liberated slave stock of America teamed up with the slave stock of France to take over France, which is why we then get the French Revolution. This led to the complete erasure of the swarthy and darker-skinned history of France. They robbed all the royal graves and desecrated the bodies. Then they dissolved the bones into unrecognizable dust. France falls apart and all this territory is forfeited to the slave stock of America. That's why we have French revival buildings like this in Pittsburgh. This is not a post office. This existed before the French slave stock took over the area. The Statue of Liberty is a symbol of slave revolts and slaves taking over their masters. The original French were not so-called white people. And William Penn, who started Pennsylvania, his father worked with the Moors and Berbers. He spoke Sabir. He was more like the Moors and Berbers than the Anglos. The Moors and Berbers stole slaves from the British Isles, but they worked with William Penn's dad. The original colonists were Moors and Jews, or Moriscos. These white-passing Quakers held prisoners of war with Roman and Greek names. America is the real old world. Ben Franklin, who claims Germanic people were not white, hated William Penn's family, which was part Germanic. These are all opportunistic parasites, and Ben Franklin just wanted the land that the Penns were getting. America is an open crime scene where thieves steal from thieves who steal from thieves. Never-ending war. The Revolution turned into the Northwest War, which turned into Tecumseh's War, which turned into the War of 1812, and then we get a reset. People ran into Africa to survive a reset. Nobody is from Africa. Just because people share a similar phenotype does not mean they share the same genotype. Not all phenotypes are the same genotype. Not all skinfolk are kinfolk. Every bloodline has a pale and a dark version, though all features come in dark first. Pale people are mostly leucistic, which is similar but different from albinism. Just like there are 7 levels of albinism, there are several levels of leucism. Recessive gene expression causes leucism and albinism. This happens when the gene pool lacks biodiversity. This is mutation, not evolution. Pale skin is not better for vitamin D absorption. Black skin is still the best for the coldest environments. Polar bear have black skin, Arctic fox. It's the same melanin structure. If Africa was really the origin point, it wouldn't have so much albinism. Loss of color is an autoimmune response, a destruction of pigment cells. Skin color is not determined by geography. Look at the Khoisan. The northern Sudanese and the Khoisan are at equal distance from the equator, yet the Sudanese are generally darker. Sticking with South Africa, Kafir was a derogatory term for so-called blacks. The Kafir were ran out of Asia and into Africa. To the left is a South African Kafir, to the right is one that is a product of crossbreeding with invaders in Asia. The advent of Islam itself was part of a reset, and it pushed people into Africa. The same is true for Christianity. The region and the people were called Nuristani. Here are the linguistic connections. Their origins were not African, as you can see here. Though this is an interesting anagram. But this is why the so-called Buddhist temples were defaced in Afghanistan. Look. Some of the biggest evidence that Africa isn't the origin point is the Andamanese people. These people are not African, they are Asian, most closely related to the original Tibetans and Japanese. This man is part original Japanese and part invader. This man is more original Japanese. Look. And the original Jomon of Japan were depicted with full features. Just like these Tibetans are part original. Look. It wasn't long ago that Asia was very dark. These are some of the original Thai and original Filipinos. Obviously Australia and Papua. And as we make our way to Polynesia, look at the last king of Hawaii. Or modern examples. And speaking of the Andamanese, they originally come from South America, and Polynesians and Melanesians are from America too. And the Australian Aboriginal is from America. The mainstream timeline has been shattered. Look, these people didn't come from the Bering Strait. They were already there. The recess just severed people and sequestered them. Take it from Carlos Marquez. After the Babel reset, people were scattered. Then the Canaanites tried to squat on land that wasn't theirs. The stereotypical so-called Native Americans are Canaanites. They get pushed into the north with the Japhethites. They become servants of Japheth. They form the Mongol horde and take over Asia, usurping so-called Tartaria. Then they take over the Middle East, the Mediterranean, and Northern Africa. Look. Then they take over Europe or Rome, gaining enough momentum to finally take over America, stealing everybody's identity and mislabeling everybody along the way. Originals have all the genetic codes, biodiversity. That's how you know the so-called Native Americans are not Aboriginals, up and down the continent. It's funny how Lucist Skywalker is the son of Darth Vader. Luke means pale, Darth means dark, Vader means father. But of course Luke runs from the truth.